Welcome back. Today, I'll be looking at the best Game Week 3 wildcards. And after spending quite a while building this team, I can safely say that it is not an easy task. There are so many different combinations of players for 2, 3, 4 spots, which makes it a very difficult decision of which path to go down. Not to mention the brilliant job that FPL have already done with the pricing, hence why it's already difficult in the first place. The introduction to the last video got deleted, but in that I spoke about how I'm considering ditching the green screen and just going for this type of camera. Honestly, I prefer it. Let me know what you think in the comments. And speaking about doing things, if you could subscribe, that would be great. We're nearly at 2,000 subscribers and we look to push on to 2,500. Given the fact that this channel is still relatively new, I'm very, very appreciative and grateful to hit that so early on. So thank you. If you enjoy it, like the video, and it'll be a really interesting one, I think, because there are a lot of different combinations to talk about, and we can get through a lot of assets, which people are definitely considering. So I hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. As you can see in the top left of your screen, that is the rating the Fantasy Football Hub AI have given us, a 90% team rating and a 91% Game Week 1 rating. Now, I'm very happy with that, and if you would like to get your team rated, you can do so with the link in the description. I know a lot of you guys have probably checked out the site already, but if you're not signed up yet, at £3.25 a month on average for the middling tier, which you get a lot for, I think it's such great value for money. You get insights into some of the best minds, right, with their team reveals in terms of Ben Krellin, Rich Clark, Abdul, etc., right? For that alone, I think it's worth it, not to mention the My Team AI tool, not to mention the price predictions, which have been so helpful and very largely accurate, etc., right? So if you haven't signed up, definitely do consider it. Have a play around with the tool. The link is in the description. But now, let's just get into the team. Okay, so as we start with every draft, I'm going to start with the second place goalkeeper, and that is Bender from Fulham. Now, he's the second choice to Leno, which is important because there are a lot of goalkeepers at low ownerships. I've picked him for one reason because of that, so I don't get a price drop, that are actually third choice. At least I have a second choice here, just in case Leno gets injured or something happens to him. God forbid it doesn't, but regardless, at least I've got someone there that can fill the spot. But that's not particular. What is, though, is why I've chosen Robert Sanchez. Now, you may look at it and be like, oh, Chelsea conceded 4 goals already. And not only have they conceded 4 goals, but they definitely could have conceded more to City. And at least in the first half against Wolves, they definitely could have conceded more there. And it's not just the fact that they could have conceded more, but it's the types of chances and just the defensive unit overall. And to that, I say it is completely fair. I think there's a completely fair counter argument. However, there are a few things. One, there is no cheap goalkeeper, I think, 4.5 and under, which has a particularly good set of fixtures apart from Chelsea. So you're already starting ahead of, I guess, the rest of the curve in that area, because those who have gone Henderson, well, not only has he not performed, but I don't see it getting any better, to be honest. Even the likes of myself who have gone Sells, well, it's worked out so far, but the fixtures aren't particularly great after this. Whereas with Sanchez, you have a prolonged period of good fixtures, and you just expect Chelsea's defense to get better. I think as the personnel become more accustomed to playing that type of system, and Maresca figures out his best midfield, particularly, that's when you'll start to see an improvement in Chelsea's defense. The back four, I think, is pretty nailed, but it's mainly just figuring out what pivot plays in front of them in the box. I know one will obviously be the inverted fullback, but another could be, for example, does Enzo play deeper? Is that something that could work? Or is it going to be Caicedo? How do they shore up the defense, etc., right? So I think when you have someone like that who's got a decent save potential, because Chelsea are conceding enough chances, it makes a lot of sense. I'm still against going above 4.5. I like Pope at the start. I think you've got good value out of him already. Newcastle didn't look great away from home, and with the fixtures coming up, Spurs at home and then 2 away fixtures, I'd probably stay away, and then I'm not willing to pay 5.5 for a keeper. So for me, Sanchez right now remains the best option. Right, now, as always, the goalkeepers are pretty boring. However, this section is absolutely not boring, and there's a lot to speak about in terms of combinations of players. I'll start with probably the most nailed person in this defense, if not definitely the most nailed. That is Konsa. Fixtures 3 to 6 are so good, and they are head and shoulders above everyone else. No one else really has a particularly good run apart from Chelsea, but we're not looking to double up there. So to have Konsa for that, who's better than Chelsea anyway, the fixture run, is brilliant. At 4.5, it's brilliant. You get expected minutes, which are pristine. And not only that, but you get an underrated amount of threat from set pieces. He's got it in him to score a goal. I've watched him many a time from a corner, from a free kick, get close to scoring. Maybe he headers it, goes over the bar, straight at the keeper. But he's always in good position. He's got a decent leap on him. And he's just got a good general understanding of where to be and when to be and how to get there. And these type of intangibles can get missed when he doesn't have the goals to go for it. But I'm still bullish that in those 4 games, I can get a goal out of him. I really do see it potentially happening. All right. Ben Johnson, by the way, Ipswich have good fixtures. We don't really want to be doubling up on Ipswich, and we don't really want to be attacking the defense heavy. But as a 4.0 enabler for the rest of the side, a facilitator, so why not, right? I mean, he's going to play some assist threat there, etc., etc. It makes a lot of sense. It's the next 3 that make it very, very challenging because there are so many options to pick. I've gone Gabriel because I'm persisting, even on Wildcard 3 with my Arsenal stance, that in 6, 7, and 8, they have really good fixtures. And for that, you're definitely going to want them. Brighton at home, I don't think it's great from a defensive standpoint. I spoke about in my thread today how they have so much firepower. Hertzler, if that is pronounced correctly, has done a magnificent job just optimizing their attacking dynamics, or at least getting close to optimizing their attacking dynamics, considering that the man who came before him was De Zerbi, who did a very good job of that as well. So I've been really impressed with how he's been able to put his own spin on it, and still Brighton have been able to score goals and look very dangerous just in their general attacking sequences. So I'm not overly bullish on Gabriel keeping a clean sheet this week. However, with Arsenal being the best defense in the league, you have to be somewhat expectant that the possibility there, and a lot more so than if they were any other side, right? He's obviously giving you the goal threat each and every. The reason I'm picking him is because I do genuinely think that in Game Week 4, they can keep a clean sheet away. Game Week 6, 7, and 8, there's a lot of clean sheets there on offer. And from now to 8, I do expect him to get at least 1 attacking return. The way I posed it to myself was, in the next 6 games, I expect a minimum of 3 clean sheets and 1 attacking return. Now, if he's to keep 3 clean sheets and get 1 attacking return, he's probably going to get some bonus as well, right? Which would at least accumulate to 3 bonus points, I would say. You could quantify that as another return separately, and therefore he'd get 5 sets of returns over 6 games. And given a lot of you may already have him, and given they're the best defense in the league, I think it's a low risk, high reward option at 6 million, especially when Trent's 7. And that's why I'm leaning towards taking it and why he finds himself here. Because I could have just gone Robinson at 4-5 and distribute the funds even more so into the attack. And you'll see the one place I made a sacrifice compared to other Game Week 3 wildcards from what I've seen. But for me, I think just play the long game with him. And you're honestly, even though you're playing the long game, you'll still get reward in the short run. Now, Trent is one that is probably the 15th selection. Similar to Quansah in my Game Week 1 draft, Trent was the 15th selection. I'm not particularly optimistic of Liverpool's chances of keeping cheat at Old Trafford. I personally think that they're going to concede. I think in a game where you offer Man United so many transitions, which Liverpool probably will do, almost definitely will do, that's actually where they'll thrive. And in terms of the goal scoring department, because it takes away their problems. Their problems are when they have to face sides that don't open themselves up and they have to break them down because their build-up is so poor, because they have so many creative issues given Bruno Fernandes's position and just general personnel interacting within that system, it becomes difficult for them. However, if you allow for one of their main threats, which is Rashford's transitional threat, to be somewhat optimized within a game state, which Liverpool will likely do when they go to Old Trafford, well, now you're looking at a completely different United side in terms of their ability to score goals. And thus, I'm not overly bullish on his clean sheet chances. Now, something I spoke about was how I expect a slight drop in his output. I still expect that as long as he's playing this role and he's having a lot of his significant actions in front of the block. When he's wide, he is so good. I mean, he's put a few balls into Jota, right, this season that really should have had assists, and he's been unfortunate to not do so. But given the volume of those are pretty low as of now, and I know that's something Schlott's talked about to increase that and get him in those positions, not just in front of the block and almost inverted and very central. Not so much inverted, but more so central. Then he'll become a very, very, very dangerous option. Probably one of the best options of the game, comfortably. However, as of now, I still think you can get away with him. The reasons I've got him is for 4, 5, and 6 a little bit, because there is no one else who can really compete with those fixtures and his attacking threat, the combination of those two. However, he is one of the players that you could definitely put on the chopping block, get a Robinson, take the 2.5 and spend it on one particular midfield asset to upgrade. What I do like about this draft is that I've got two 4.0s in the Aston Villa right back and Brendan Johnson that facilitate very well because both will play. Both have pretty good fixtures, especially with the Aston Villa fullback. I can always bring him in to start for the next four, hopefully, assuming Villa don't start right back. And I'm getting such a good fixture. I'm getting a bit of attacking threat from open play. So why not, right? That's what I really like about this defense. Having two 4.0s where at least one, not only does he play and have good fixtures, but he plays for a good side. Right, so this is where I've made the sacrifice by having Trent. I've gone for Gordon. Now, I still think Gordon is a good option. And he might be slightly unpopular. I expected many of you to Eze or even Wemo, who I've talked up a bit. But I've chosen Gordon. I'm going to come to him last, and then I can speak more from a macro level perspective. For now, let's go back to the micros. I have Bukayo Saka because this guy is an absolute magician on the football pitch. If you watched the second half, particularly against Aston Villa, it's when he gets the ball that things in difficult games happen. It's always him that will find a solution with penalties, with set pieces, and then being a monstrous set piece team. With his influence with every attacking action and where he gets to take them, it's not as wide as last year, I don't think. I'm so comfortable having him. I think it's just a season keeper for a guy that's going to tick over at times and at times just be quite explosive and haul. I don't think you need to make the game overly difficult for yourself. Yeah, sure, you can try the strategy of hopping on and off premiums, which is something I'm doing myself, but not with Saka because I think he should just be an ever-present at 10. I think he's 0.5 underpriced. I don't really see why Palmer should be priced above him because they can count that level of penalties is unsustainable, and there's probably going to be a regression to the mean in terms of its volume. But nonetheless, I think Saka, for me, like I've said many times, is going to be the top scoring mid this year, and yeah, not going anywhere. I've got Palmer. Now let's speak a bit about Palmer in terms of a footballing sense. Yeah, sure, he's got great fixtures, but he costs 10.5, and that's a lot. So how do we justify that? Well, the way we justify that is the position he played against Wolves. Playing at the top of that midfield box as a 10 who at times was allowed to run beyond the 9 and had so many combinations available to him because he could float and combine with a left winger, he can combine with Madueke, as he did very well, or help out Jackson, which he did run off him. Well, that's a lot of avenues to points with an open play. Then you put on the fact that there's penalties there. Then you put on the fact that there's fixtures and Chelsea look like they can now score a lot of goals. Well, that's a hot prospect. And it's the fixtures mainly for the fact that they're so good over such a prolonged period of time. He's got a very good floor as well because he's so involved. That I think you just take him and there's no real argument that you can have to say that he's a bad asset in any way. Okay, so how have we facilitated those two premiums and such a strong defense? Through Smith Rowe, Rodgers, and Gordon. Now, from what I've seen in Wildcard, Smith Rowe and Rodgers are two assets which overall are certainly popular, having both of them. The main reason being the fixtures, right? Sure, they've got a lot of good things going for them, hence why we're picking them aside from the fixtures, but that is the main reason. I spoke about how on Twitter I didn't love Rodgers' role against West Ham because I felt like you needed to put a creative next to him so he didn't have to do so much progression. Now, against Arsenal, he got a lot of plaudits for his performance, and rightfully so. However, we're not playing the game of play well in the Premier League. We're playing the game of points. All we care about is output because that's what gets us points. And if he's going to consistently be the guy to progress, similar to Morgan Gibbs-White, well, that's going to really make his output suffer. Now, my thinking is that having watched both the West Ham and the Arsenal game, that against, and I say this with the greatest respect, the lesser sides who they're going to play now, or the weaker sides, I think it makes a lot of sense to shift some of the progressive responsibility. I think it will naturally be done to everyone else, apart from Watkins, right? So maybe if it's Ramsey or McGinn off the left, they can do a bit of it. Bailey on the right, he's probably allowed now to come a bit more inside, have a bit more fluidity, take a bit more of the ball from deeper, but their structure doesn't need to be as rigid. Arsenal and West Ham have a lot of firepower that you need to contain. And obviously then you've got Onana in terms of his carrying, and then Tielemans in terms of his passing, particularly, that can help progress. So I do think you'll see Rodgers in and around the box a little bit more. And with the fixtures being so good, and the fact that he's such an athlete, so I think that bodes well for his expected minutes, I do think that you can get away with him having good minutes and thus output threat for the next four. at least. The Champions League is a little bit of an issue. I did, however, look at that, and it's only like one game that's really going to intertwine with these four fixtures. So I think you should be okay there. Smith Rowe, a lot of people have him already, like myself. I mean, he's just got a 10-pointer. He has Ipswich away. The fixtures even after that aren't too bad with West Ham at home and Newcastle at home. Two defenses that you can definitely get at in transitions. Well, West Ham also threw them. Newcastle definitely in transitions. Fulham aren't the best defensive outfit ever, and they'll open the game up a little bit, especially at home, I think, to those two sides. So there should be a flurry of chances in those games, and I think you can definitely profit. I think I'd have those two regardless in any wildcard draft, even if I did have Trent. The one I wouldn't have if I had extra funds would be Gordon. And what I do is probably rejig the team to get Watkins somehow and change out the Aston Villa fullback. But I have gone Gordon. So why am I still bullish on him? Why have I chosen him over Eze, Mbeumo, and all of the rest? Okay. I like the Spurs fixture. It's traditionally a very good fixture. And especially under Postecoglou, in a game which I think will be quite basketball style, a lot of transition-based football within that game, just end to end to end to end. He can definitely profit, exploiting Spurs' high line, exploiting their willingness to stay high as a team in general. Then you've got two games which are away from home, which traditionally he hasn't done as well in. But again, they're not like going to Brentford and breaking down a really resolute, well-structured, old-style Brentford block. It's more so, again, like just with the way football's going, a bit more transition-based. And I think he can really thrive in that. And thus, I've gone for him. He's really good on the bonus point system for a variety of reasons. And he has open play goal threat, which is a big thing for me. But why haven't I gone in Mbeumo? Mainly because of the fixtures in 4 and 5. I think you can definitely get something at Spurs away. It's the fact that City away is first, which probably puts me off a little bit because I can always go Gordon to Mbeumo for Spurs away or the game after if I wanted to. It's a very close one. It's a very, very close one between the two, especially because I can get 0.5. And if you were to go there, I wouldn't mind it at all. I think it's definitely a good option. I don't really have anything negative to say about Eze. I spoke about him in the transfer plans. I said I think he's all good. I just fancy Gordon a little bit more, given I'm not super bullish on Palace as a side at the moment. Also, Eze has Chelsea this week, and I definitely prefer Gordon's fixture short term. And with how quickly the landscape's changing, who knows, maybe we have to shift out that 7 million. But going back to it, whilst the front two is non-negotiable for me, even if I was to change for 3 for 3, you can definitely with this draft take out Trent, I think, and I think it would be fine. And upgrade Gordon to Ollie Watkins by changing the Aston Villa. So this draft is a 3-5-2, and not something I've used so far. The two forwards, when I was making this, I was like, oh, I probably don't have to speak about them too much. But from the general consensus I've been seeing, maybe we do need to touch on them a little bit more. I've seen a fair bit of talk about relinquishing Haaland sometime soon, and this being the best time to do it. I think the Arsenal at home fixtures having a lot of weight in that discussion, and essentially facilitating Salah for what people see to be a better captaincy option, a much better captaincy option in game weeks 5 and potentially even 4. I, however, strongly disagree. I just don't think this guy's going to stop. I think he could score another hat-trick at West Ham away. Villa created so many chances when they went away to West Ham. And if they did, surely we can expect City to do not only the same, but better. He's the guy on the end of pretty much all of these chances. I've spoken about so many times how I thought the system was going to be optimized, how the wingers will help him, and so how the wider threat impacts the volume of shots and the type of shots within the City side, the lesser responsibility on Foden and the ball striker from outside the box. And we've seen that in these two games. I expect it to continue. Brentford at home, they don't approach the games. Thomas Franks doesn't approach the games in the same way, I don't think. He used to be super well structured and resolute. I do think it's a little bit different now. He's willing to be a little bit more expansive, just a little bit. I like Lewis Potter, by the way. Very random thought, but I like Lewis Potter as a left wing back. I was just thinking about how Liverpool performed against them. And yeah, I just don't think Haaland's going to stop. I really like the West Ham fixture. I think he's score another hat-trick. So he will be the captain for this side. His run after Newcastle away, and I don't think Newcastle away is bad for him, is phenomenally good. And I just don't know why you take the risk. Like, there's no one who can match his ceiling or floor. We've kind of already seen a little bit, just glimpses of. And I honestly think he could score. game at this point. So I just don't see why you take him out and make the game so much harder for yourself. I understand when people say that, oh, I'd rather have Salah under 2.5. The difference with Salah is he's a mid, so the opportunity cost of him is never as high because the second, third, fourth best alternatives are all still very good. Whereas when you drop Haaland to just Watkins and Havertz, I don't think it's the same. Because I'm going Salah to like Palmer, Bukayo Saka, who I think will outscore him this season, is not the same from Haaland to Watkins because I don't think there's a shot that Watkins keeps pace with Haaland. So that's why I have no intention of selling him, and the armband is slapped straight on him. I really can't see it moving for the considerable, even in game weeks 4, which people don't really like. Havertz, I mean, I guess I'm just continuing my persistence on Arsenal. I love the fixture 6 to 8, so I'd like to have triple Arsenal for that. I think 4 is a really good fixture as well for him. Spurs away, I think he's definitely someone. If you watch the Villa game, he made a lot of runs beyond the last line. And I think in a game, a bigger game away, Arsenal and City are both less willing to take those type of risks. And the runs that Havertz and Haaland make don't get found as much. However, I think against Spurs, when they offer you so much and the line is significantly higher, and they'll do it repeatedly, I do think that he'll get picked out a bit more in that sense. He did well in this fixture last year as well. That's always something to note. Players are human after all. Confidence from previous times is definitely something to rely on. Not massively, but a good little bit of data. Game week 3, if we can get a return, I think, oh my God, what a brilliant asset and what a brilliant selection it would have been. He's at home as well. Brighton definitely, I thought they were very impressive against Everton and pretty good against United. I do, however, think that with the football they try to play, they are going to get caught out sometimes. And not having a Saliba or Van der Ven type to just bail you out with elite physicality, elite athleticism, and just general quality is something that Havertz could definitely profit off. I wouldn't be surprised to see Arsenal score 2 or 3. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised to see Brighton score either. And so for that, given that I'm comfortable with 3 and 4, it's fine. And the last thing to note is I'm actually quite comfortable having 3 attacking assets in the City Arsenal game because I do not think that this time around it will be what we saw last season. Last year we saw a very, very cagey 1-0 at the Emirates and then a very, very cagey 0-0 at the Etihad. I think we'll get minimum 2 goals. I'm kind of expecting a 3-1 in that type of game. I think especially City have changed their side a little to give you a little bit more of a go defensively. Like if you're going to stop them, it's going to be even more difficult. And I just think that over the course of 90 minutes, City will have a bit too much to keep for Arsenal to keep them out for the entirety of it, and thus Arsenal will have to respond in some sense. And they've definitely got the keys to unlocking that City defense. So yeah, when I have players with all the fundamentals down, and when new opportunities are arising left, right, and center, I see no reason to make it difficult for myself and take out Havertz. Right, Palmer, maybe I hop on, hop off him a little bit, but he's got such a good run. So realistically, Havertz, Saka, Haaland, Palmer, with this side, Gordon, Trent, Gabriel, Konsa, Sanchez, I can just keep them. And sure, if I ever want to relinquish Trent in Game Week 8, which is kind of a bit of a plan with this wildcard, I can take him out, upgrade Smith Rowe or Rodgers. I doubt both of them will flop. I think at least one will do very well. And then continue from there. So yeah, overall, I really like the structure of the draft. And I don't see too many weaknesses from it. But let us speak about the one obvious omission, which most of you will be looking at on a wildcard draft, and that is Mohamed Salah. In a bit more detail. I still don't think he justifies a 12.5 price tag. I know he's got 24 points, same as Haaland. I again reiterate the point about the opportunity cost between him and the next mid, and then Haaland and the rest of the forwards. Like, yeah, sure, you could have gone for Danny Welbeck, but let's be honest, you probably never thought about him, and you're probably not going to. So now the difference from Haaland to the next is 10 points, and that being Havertz. However, from Salah to the next best is what Madwaker, who you probably weren't going to go for, so we'll exclude him. But then it's Cole Palmer on, 19, and then Son on 18, and Saka on 18. So the difference is smaller, and there's a greater volume of players in and around. So that kind of backs up my point with the opportunity. I didn't even think about that initially. The fact that the data was already there to use. And the other thing is, I think he's had his best 2 fixtures in the... I don't think Forest at home is as good as people say. They look pretty resolute defensively. The defensive data is catching up to their output, their defensive output, right? They didn't concede a lot of chances at all against Southampton. Even Bournemouth, they kept them fairly tamed. So I think Forest could go then, not concede too many chances either. I know what you'll say about Man United. I just think that going to Old Trafford is always a little bit iffy. And given what I said about how I think United could actually do well in the game state, the interaction between the two systems actually profits themselves in these type of scenarios. So with that in mind, am I really expecting him to blow every single premium mid out the water? Because I'm not going to get the upside of captaining him, right? So am I expecting him to significantly clear Palmer, Saka, Son, etc.? No, I'm not. And for those reasons, yeah, sure, Game Week 5 would be nice to own him. I think you can go without him. I just still think his output might go down a little. And even if it doesn't, I think the rest, like Saka's, will definitely go up this year. And Palmer's will be very, very, very good in this system. I wasn't expecting him to play the 10. I really thought he'd play on the right with Nkunku in the middle. But if he's playing here, he'll be dangerous. And yeah, I'm still very set on no Salah at the moment for those reasons, particularly the opportunity. And that is all for today. Thank you very, very much. Please do subscribe if you enjoyed. Like the video if you enjoyed. I love interacting with you guys in the comments. I reply to pretty much every single one. So drop your team there, drop your thoughts on the wild card, drop any questions you have, and I'll happily answer every single one of them. Make sure to go and check out Fantasy Football Hub. The link is again in the description if you wish to sign up or just have a play around with the tools. I shall see you tomorrow for another video. Have a wonderful evening, afternoon, day, depending on what time you're watching it. And I'll see you shortly.